So, Amnesia.
Like, you're recording already. You're gonna edit out the bullshit at the
Of
start.
course
right?
I'm gonna. Well,
Okay.
I can edit out whatever, but
So
I have the power.
Things I wanted to talk about was like the voice acting. You probably have a better grasp of the plot than I do.
Grasp, as in like sarcastic air quotes
Yeah.
around it, because I
I want to talk about like the effects and the music and that sort of thing. So why don't you start with?
Well, even just like the gameplay and stuff like that too. Just
Yeah,
in
that
general.
too. Why don't we go broad? Start with the plot.
Go broad. Let's start with the plot.
Yeah,
Oh,
what'd
God,
you think
this
of the plot?
Well, it was kind of interesting, but I kind of liked it at the beginning where it was way more
I
of
was
a
gonna
mystery,
say
and there's
that
just
it
like
was-
these crazy creatures, but then it all went like metaphysical on our
Yeah,
asses.
and then it went, and there's, right at the end, it took a really weird turn. It was like monsters and evil and stuff like that, and then suddenly it was like, orbs and dimensions and German sparkle parties, and like, you know,
Agrippa!
like it was like...
We just like chop Agrippa's head off, and we bunted through the portal. It's like... And then
like-
there's like, what's his face? The Baron with his like glowy floaty penis stance.
Like, is it just me or did it take a really weird turn right at the end? Like, I was on board with the whole thing. It was like monsters, creepy castle, insanity, evil, descent into madness, the depths of the human soul.
Well,
like...
I would have been okay with them being like part of this like evil cult or something like that, but I didn't think they were gonna go as far to say, oh yeah,
they
let's
went...
go to like this alternate dimension.
Yeah, they went totally... Like, it was... What I liked about it at the start was that it was kind of... I don't want to say realistic, but like, you're in a creepy castle, there's a shadowy monster out there somewhere, you're going to like torture chambers and stuff, it's all like more or less grounded in reality, but with like a horror, you know, kind of like a horror movie where it doesn't go too far off the rails, it's just there's a monster, right? Or many of them, as the case may be, and then you find out there's like an evil shadow and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden, it's like mystical orbs and weird crackly tunnels and sucking life suffering essence out of things.
Out of
like
people,
it just
yeah.
I don't know, it went really like fantasy right at the end.
Yeah.
And I'd rather it had an ending more like, even if the ending was just like, sorry, nothing you can do, you're fucked.
Yeah, well, that's a funny thing, too, because there's two endings we actually didn't do, because one of them was if we decided to stay inside that cell when we get caught by the guy, which scared the crap out of me, by the way. I'm just like, shit!
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, hey, we're not dead.
Yeah.
But, like, that and stupid cell with his freaking buckets, and I'm like, how do we get out of this stupid thing?
Yeah.
I hated that place. Anyways,
Yeah.
but yeah, apparently if you just stay there and wait for the shadow, it kills you, and you get, like, a little code and stuff. You're supposed to get all 4 codes to get something special, but...
Oh.
And then, we had the one where we punt Agrippa's head through, and he's like, oh, hey, Daniel, we'll have a German sparkle party, and they all go and float around and
yeah, and he's all like, it's gonna be fine, and I'm like, what kind of fucking ending is that? That doesn't explain or solve anything. It's just like, thanks for kicking my head into this other dimension, and
we'll save
we're all
you
good.
From
but it doesn't have any, it's not like, it doesn't explain what happened to him. Like, even if it was like, you lose, you die, that's still a conclusion, you know what I mean? Like, some people would be mad that they, like, couldn't quote-unquote beat the game. But the whole tone of the game was kind of like, you're completely fucked because you can't fight back. So I feel like that would have been kind of a good ending where you find out that you just, the whole time you were just fucked, your time was running out, all of this was in vain, like, it's a very dark game.
Well, it's kind of like the one ending, I guess, where you just let him go through and then the shadow just comes and kills you.
Yeah, but that's more
that was like the bad ending. That was like the worst ending you could get.
Yeah, because
there was
missed so much of the...
Yeah, there was one other ending you could do, or if you just like left Agrippa behind, you say screw you, Agrippa, and then you go to the room, and you can actually push the pillars down. And I think the reason why it didn't work when we tried it is because we just like touched it once or twice. Like, there was this one part, like, I don't know if you remember this, but there was, like, this one trapdoor you had to open pretty early in the game, and there was, like, a bone or something stuck in it, and you had to kind of, like, wiggle it a bit, and then it broke. So I'm thinking, like, you might have had to, like, spend more time on the pillars, but you're supposed to knock the pillars over. And that's supposed to, like, I guess, like, atone for your past sins or something. You're like, okay, I accept my fate, I'm gonna destroy this, and we're all going down. But then the shadow decides to attack, like, what's his face? Alexander, and then he leaves you alone, and you can just walk out of the castle.
I almost like that. Okay, problem with that is that, a couple problems with that. The shadow thing is, like, super evil, like, vengeance, you know, don't open the thingy, or whatever it was, that, like, they were cursed. It has nothing to do with redeeming your character or being a good guy. It's just like, you fucked with my shit, and now I'm gonna haunt you and kill you forever.
Well, that's what I was wondering about Agrippa, because Agrippa found those orbs and apparently encountered the Shadow, but the Shadow kind of, like, didn't bother him. Like, the Shadow had ample opportunities to kill Agrippa, and he's just hanging from a wall there, unless, like, Alexander was keeping him safe or something, but he didn't even seem that scared. He was so chill. He's like, oh, hi, Daniel, how's it going?
That was, yeah, he was...
Oh, you're back! Excellent!
Yeah, he was something. I really don't remember his interactions with, like, the orb or whatever it was, like... I don't know, I just know that they, like, went to Algeria and they opened something that they shouldn't have and it pissed the thing off and now he's after him. So it, like, just, for the shadowy thing to be like, oh, you've redeemed yourself, like, it just doesn't feel like something, an evil, unstoppable, it doesn't suit the rest of the tone of this monster that it's just, like, completely unstoppable. For it to be, that's a really pussy ending. Yeah. Like, that's really stupid, so... I just think they should have done at the ending, it should have just been like, he realizes that there's nothing he can do. It would be interesting if it was just, they're all, like, all three of them are just batshit crazy, and they've been torturing people for nothing, because it doesn't do shit, and they were just desperate and insane.
Yeah, so, like, at the very end, he's, like, I'm gonna open the portal, and there's all these, like, spinning rocks and stuff, he's like, why isn't it opening? Oh, shit!
Like, like, the portals, it doesn't exist, you're a fucktard, like... And then if Daniel just, like, went out, taking everyone with him, and killed all three of them because there's nothing he could do.
Yeah.
Like, it should have had a darker ending.
Yeah.
Is what I'm...
Well, even, like, with Alexander, too, he's, like, it was kind of being played off the whole entire time that he was, like, his whole purpose was to return to this alternate dimension, because that's where he was from or something. Sure. And that's what those, like, little, I looked it up, that's what those cylinders are from, like, you know, you press a little cylinder and you go white and then it has all the text and stuff. Yeah. It's, like, his little memory cylinders or whatever, and he puts, like, a journal in there, and he's, like, and that's why he's, like, my love, and that's why I was so confused by all the rose petals and everything, but, like, his love was the alternate dimension. Yeah. Anyway.
If you say so. See, again...
That's the explanation that I read. I didn't get that. I thought that, like, the love had something to do with that girl, but that girl was, like, the person Daniel murdered, and that was, like, the last straw, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna take this amnesia potion and just kill Alexander.
Oh, I see.
But, cause he's, like, his mind was, like, all broken and stuff like that, and he's like, I can't kill Alexander in my current state, so I'm gonna take the amnesia potion, and then I'll be able to, like, take my revenge or whatever, or get my revenge.
Or something.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was just gonna say. You reminded me of something and I completely forgot.
Amnesia potion, girl Daniel's gonna
petals.
kill.
Oh yeah, those like cylinder things are another example of this like mystical bullshit that I think really... It didn't ruin the game for me because I still enjoyed the game, but it really, like... My love of the game decreased due to the mystical bullshit angle. Like, I just really think they should have kept more of, like, a gritty, semi-reality, non-mystical, sparkly bullshit portal dimension stuff.
You're wanting it to be more, like, science fiction-y rather than fantasy. Like, as the science fiction-y part being, like, all the weird medicine and shit they're doing. Or, like, I don't know, like, making, like, these servants or whatever. That was another thing, those servants and stuff like that. Like, there's, like, a theory that, like, Daniel's insanity makes them look scarier than they actually were, because he describes them before as just kind of, like, quiet and skulking and sullen, rather than, like, floppy-jawed and, like...
Yeah, but then why were they chasing him?
I have no idea, but I guess they were chasing him because, like, Alexander's like, go and make sure Daniel doesn't interfere, and they're chasing him around and trying to kill him.
I don't like that either. I like the idea of there being an actual shadow with actual monsters.
See, I think the shadow was just all the, like, jam stuff and, like, the kind of, like, ambiguous, like, hanging over your head, he's following you. And then the, like, those servant things were supposed to be, like, Alexander's.
I don't buy that. I don't think that's the case.
But I kind of liked the idea of the shadow being kind of, like, insubstantial, like, you have no idea what it is. It's an unknown force after you, and that's, like, one reason why you can't, like, fight back against it and stuff like that, because you don't know what it is, and it's, like, really powerful, and it can throw jam at you.
Or create monsters to come and kill you, like it... I don't know. Anyway, I think it's apparent my bitching with the plot, so I'll stop.
Yeah.
I'll leave that horse alone.
So let's talk about the voice acting.
Oh, God.
Sorry, just mentioning Agrippa, and I just remember his, like, really awful German accent.
Cheerful. And
I love Agrippa. I'm not gonna lie, I love that character, but not for the reasons I should have, probably.
He just doesn't belong in the game. No. Like, he's hilarious, and there shouldn't be something hilarious in the game.
It's good comic relief, I suppose.
But it's a game that I don't want comic relief.
I need comic relief. Yeah.
It just doesn't belong.
I can provide
there,
my own comic relief things.
Exactly, but that's another point where it went off the rails for me. It was like, I'm all terrified, and all of a sudden there's this chipper man hanging from the thing. He's like, if you could take me with you, that'd be very much appreciated, old chap. And I'm like,
can you take me with you? That'd be so nice.
I know.
Let's go on an adventure together.
Oh, but the voice acting in this game was terrible. It was.
Yeah, I agree with you with the Daniel parts where his voice is just too slow reading.
It's too slow with a terrible accent that I'm pretty sure exists nowhere in the world. I think it's like
how people think British accents.
Yeah, exactly.
Sound.
Someone who's never heard an actual British accent, that's how they think it sounds.
English accent, I suppose.
Whatever. Yeah, English.
Yeah.
So it was slow and it was hammy and it was terrible, which is why I skipped most of it. It was painful.
It was just in the reading part, like even like for the memory parts and like the stuff where you could hear echoes of his own voice. That wasn't as bad because there's at least a little more emotion in it.
Yeah, and it had, that was okay.
Yeah.
But him reading was just, and I think another problem was it was reading it as if he were reading it to you. But it's supposed to be like a journal.
Yeah.
But his, pace and stuff is as if he were holding a letter, reading it to you, instead of writing it himself, like Ezio fucking writing his little letters to Claudia. You know how he just writes and it sounds like a person who's writing? This didn't. This was like, story time, children.
Yeah, I don't even think it was really that necessary. Like, the only reason I could think of, connecting, or, having Daniel... quotes read the letters is so you could connect his voice with the random memories you hear, but I'm pretty sure you'd figure it out from the beginning of the game because he talks to himself. He's like, my name is Daniel, his voice from the onset, so why do you have to have those things in there? It would make a lot more sense you just read it at your own pace.
You could even really extrapolate it from the scenes, because one of them is obviously Alexander and he addresses him and stuff like that. And he's the one who's mustache twirlingly evil.
I did like his voice acting. I don't know if I liked how it was delivered, but I liked his voice.
Yeah, I think his voice was good, but the way they delivered it, every time he opened his mouth, I saw him tying some woman to, railroad tracks and twirling his mustache. It was so obvious that he wasn't, as much of a villain as Daniel was, arguably, because they made him sound so evil. There was obviously a twist. The whole thing was do you believe us now? And I'm like, no, I really don't. He's come down to my dungeon, Daniel. I have a big...
Make sure you don't stray from the
Yes, exactly, yes. Come, don't linger. His voice was good, but the way they did it, again...
Yeah, the delivery, that's something I hope they improve on.
And wasn't he in, Prussia or something?
Yeah.
He had no accent whatsoever.
He was kind of, maybe slightly English sounding, but... It was more like an American type accent,
it was
mid-northwest.
It was, so that was terrible as well. Agrippa was just funny.
Well, at least he kind of sort of fit the location he was in. Prussia.
Not really. That was one of the worst German accents.
At least they tried slightly. It was still terrible, but it was funny. So.
But, I think the other ones, the little girl and her mother and whatever, they weren't too bad.
Yeah. It was really high-pitched and squealy, but she was scared, and when you're scared, your voice goes high-pitched and squeally, as I have seen!
Yes, as we're aware.
When the water monster arrived, I'm like, what is that? What is it? Don't go down there! That's bad! And, my voice just goes up an octave in that
mine
part.
does that, too. Mine goes up when I go, ah! If I were going, that's how I go, I'm not sure of this, but when it was, it turned into more of, ah!
It's okay, if I was, legitimately, scared, I would just screech, so...
Yeah. Or, sometimes I just froze like a little rabbit, and I just sit there, huddling in the corner, I'm not making any noise, and I'm not moving, I can't die in this position,
My worst one was where I was just, in that one room, and I was just staring at the monster. And he was coming over, and I'm like, I can't stop staring, that I know he's supposed to be coming towards me. It's because that was, the first, full...
Oh, yeah.
Monster that we seen, because we saw him, shadows of him and stuff go by.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting game mechanic, 'cause, some of the times you see the monsters and stuff like that, it's just a scripted monster, so you'll see him go by, but it won't come after you. And then other times there's actually monsters searching the hallways for you. So there's, scripted and unscripted monsters there, and they, come out during certain events and whatnot.
Yeah.
Oh, what else was I going to say about those monsters? Damn it.
They were pretty creepy, from what you saw of them. it wasn't that they like looked terribly horrifying. It was just that they were humanoid, but really wrong.
Yeah,
like
even the way they moved, it was kind of like this like lopsided, kind of
it was like
jerky
this
movements.
Disjointed kind of joints aren't where they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Weird, and I love that. I thought that was really good.
I have to say the scariest part about them, though, was just the sounds they made. Like, Machete Man, like those screeching, scraping noises of the metal around corners. That was terrible.
That's why I called him Machete Man.
Yeah, that's the sewer part. I think that was the scariest part of that sewer, because the sewer wasn't that scary other than Machete Man, really.
I didn't like that you couldn't see the fog. That really made it. But it's kind of like another kind of darkness. I didn't like it down there, but... Yeah, what was the scariest part, like, in terms of parts of the castle?
Well, to be honest, like, I got really, really scared, and then I kind of got more used to the monster. I'm like, okay, I see monster, don't freak out, like I gotta run away, so...
Like, which aesthetic? Like, the labyrinthy kitchen area, or the study, or the... sort of upper castle, or that, like, meadery, or whatever the fuck it was.
I'd have to say, like, the dungeon probably was one of the scarier areas, just because it was so dark down there, you couldn't see around the corners, and it was like a big labyrinth, so you had no idea where you were going.
Like
there's
the
monsters running around. Yeah, that area.
Yeah.
Like the torture rooms and stuff like that, I didn't find that area as scary. It was just, like, more horrible rather than
I like the horror of them instead of a spookiness, which I think was a really good...
The morgue was nasty. That was a nasty morgue.
But I like the fact that it's like you've gotten creeped up to that point, and then like there's this like capital H horror section, and then it goes back to creepy intense. Like I really thought that was a
they really build the suspense really well in the beginning, because you know it's supposed to be a horror game and you're expecting stuff, but nothing really arrives until like maybe 40 minutes in or something.
That also, when it goes off the rails into mystical bullshit, it's a letdown.
Yeah,
it was really disappointing.
How would you want it to end then? What direction do you think you would want to go, and where did it start going wrong?
I would have preferred it that Alexander is just a crazy motherfucker who thinks that somehow by extracting the suffering from creatures it can whatever, and Daniel is so desperate to escape this whatever that he goes along with it, and then he finds that he's become the monster. Oh, the dark descent. It's it's cliched, but I think that it would be more, it would fit the sort of gritty tone of most of it. Like, it's not like the monsters are sort of humanoid, and the settings, like, you could believe it's an actual setting, but it's spookier. Like, it's all kind of, again, realism isn't really the word I'm looking for, but, like, I would rather it just turned out that he was a crazy motherfucker, and Daniel couldn't live with what he'd done by joining in on all this, and he realized that this guy was just crazy, so he took the potion-y thing, and then he's like, fuck all this, I don't want to be distracted by how horrible I've been, I'm gonna forget it, and then just be like, I'm gonna, like, send myself to assassinate this dude, and put a stop to all this, and then either just be like, I guess I'm fucked, and the shadow comes and eats his face, or he, like, does something and takes everyone down with him. He somehow attracts the shadow while he has Alexander trapped somewhere and it eats them both, or something.
Yeah, like, it would actually have been interesting if they'd found a way to, like, kill the shadow, I suppose, in the very, very end. But then again, I guess that would be, like, kind of like falling victim to, like, every other game where, like, you find a way to get out and like, find a way to kill it, right? So,
whereas, like, you can't fight back, and that's a really... I mean, that's, like, the core of what makes it so scary, is that you got fucking nothing. Like, you can slash at it with your little twig arms or throw a moldy loaf of bread at it, but you're not gonna be able to do shit. So to find a way to beat it in the end really cheapens all of really that. Does. It kind of, it's like, I think for the whole thing.
Maybe that's why they kind of, like, found a compromise for that, because they, like, are kind of trying to cater to the people who expect a way out, like, expect from video games to actually be able to win, rather than, like, just playing for the story, which was what they were advertising in the beginning. They're just like, just play this game for the story, don't try to win and stuff like that, but you could still kind of win. Like, it's...
But that, you know what, by trying to please everyone, I think they let both groups down.
Yeah, I'm not sure what their motivations were, like, behind the whole thing.
It feels like that. It feels like they kind of wanted to have a couple endings. Some you lose, some you win, but winning, like, you know, going to the other Sparkle dimension. And Agrippa's like, it's all good, man, and then roll credits. Like, it was. I think it probably really disappointed both camps.
Yeah, well, being able to, like, walk away from the castle afterwards too. Like, how could you even live with yourself after that? Like, you'd have all these, like, memories from that. Like, he takes the amnesia potion again and just goes on his merry way? Or,
Yeah,
like,
I really think that, like, yeah, anyone...
How would he walk out of the castle anyways? Like, half the thing's collapsed behind
and
him.
covered in jam. Again, that's why he shouldn't be able to win.
I guess, like, at the end, like, if he pleases the shadow or whatever, the shadow would just, like, remove the jam
But
and
that's
let him
the
walk
thing.
out. But...
You shouldn't be able to please... Like, they build up the shadow as this thing that can't be stopped. It's killing everyone. He's desperate for an answer. He can't find an answer, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I like the idea of there's no pleasing it, there's no stopping it, there's no begging it. It's just... And I really think that they went in a really poor direction with the end. So, I've made my case.
Yeah.
How would you like if you could build the ending?
I'd probably do something similar, too. Like, I'd maybe, like, see if there's, like, some kind of way Daniel could redeem himself, even just to himself, even if the shadow still comes.
Well, that would be killing
him. Like,
Alexander.
So, killing Alexander, like, you know... I guess there's no prisoners left to, like, you know, redeem himself to. They're all dead now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He explains to the, like, blood stains on the floor. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Not like running around apologizing for the blood stains.
My bad.
Go to the morgue. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry I tortured you. I'm sorry.
All the bodies
My
pop
bad.
up and, like, swarm him.
Yeah.
Like zombies.
Would you have done any of the mystical bullshit?
I don't know. I guess I didn't mind that as much, but, like, it just, I don't know, the execution of it was a little bit cheesy. Like, I might have been able to buy it if it was a little, I don't know, even a little more explained. It was just kind of ambiguous.
Yeah.
Like, I think they were trying to make it ambiguous so you could kind of come to your own conclusions, but the
Yeah,
fact
but
that there's entire wikis of, like, explanations of how things are in the game says that they had a point for everything, so I don't know.
So Anyway, I'm sticking to my guns here. They should have stuck to sort of the original, I don't know, vision of the game. Like what it was up until the point where it took a, right hand turned into Wonky Town. They just should have kept that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what I have to say about that.
Well, as for, like, game mechanics and stuff, like, plot aside, I think the game mechanics actually work quite well, like, how you kind of, like, slowly descend into insanity, and you have to kind of, like, balance it. I was, like, doing an additional reading on that, and, like, actually, like, spending just even a little time in the darkness, since Daniel's afraid of the darkness, he starts going insane, like, really, really fast, and that's why you have to go back to the light and stuff again. I think that was kind of cool, because it makes it a lot harder to traverse the areas without him going all drunk and woobly. I don't know if I like that aspect of it, because I mean, like, it didn't really make sense. I mean, it made it harder to play, which I did like.
Yeah.
But like, it didn't make sense from, like, a logical point of view. Like, why are you, like, flailing around?
In a practical sense, like, for the game, like, really, what else could you do?
Yeah.
To make going insane an actual, like, threat. Yeah. So...
Well, it was really cool, too, because, like, the more insane you were, the easier monsters could detect you, and you actually started, like, hallucinating sometimes, like, those bugs on the screen we saw every now and then. Apparently that was, like, a hallucination, not, like, actual bugs on your face.
Well, yeah, I imagine that. Either that or a glitch, but I figured it must be because we're...
Oh, no, it was like a hallucination, but I like that kind of idea. You don't know what's real, what's not, like, what you should run away from, what you shouldn't, and how, like, you have to balance between, like, progressing and trying to stay safe and, like, in the light and stuff like that. Like, I think the game itself, that way, worked really well. Yeah,
it'd be neat if you were, like, if you were crazy, then some of the monsters you encountered weren't actually there, and if it, like, ran up to your face and disappeared. So you were, like, shitting yourself like it's coming for you, and then... Or, like, you turned down a hallway where you could go back, but all of a sudden, because you're batshit crazy, it didn't look like you could go, like there was a wall there suddenly. And then you turn around and the monster's coming to eat your face, and then it just disappears. And you're
That's why I was really confused at one point. Like, I think it was in that, it was near the end, and it was that kind of cross room, with, like, the chasm down below and stuff like that, where the orby lightning thing was, and where the monster, like, captured us, that room. I thought, like, I got turned around so suddenly in there, like, I thought the room was changing. And that was just, like, I've had that a couple times in the game where I actually thought, like, the levels were changing, or, like, that Daniel was confused or something. And, like, oh my god, this game is, like, created to torture me.
Yeah.
But.
So, for Insanity, like, I understand the drunkenness. I think they could have done a lot more with it, but I'm not sure how well funded they were, so...
Yeah, well, that's why this next game should be interesting, because they actually have the money now, so it'd be interesting to see where they go with it and, like, what kind of mechanics they put in.
I hope they put in some more stuff like that. The only thing about Insanity is the peanut sound effect, where he's, like, going crazy.
That's
and
supposed to be his teeth chattering. I looked that up, too.
No, that's
stuff like
really...
that doesn't sound like teeth
Not
chattering.
at all. I think someone's making that shit up, or...
Oh, probably.
Really stretching the sound, because that's not what it sounds like someone cracking peanuts.
I thought it was supposed to be, like, bug sounds, like little cockroaches making noises or something. Like, that's what I thought it was in the game. It didn't really sound like that, but I'm like, was it that?
I thought it was just a noise that was supposed to be scary. That indicated that you were going crazy. Like, it wasn't supposed to be anything, per se.
Your mind is crackling.
Yeah. But I just make fun of it because it sounds like someone cracking whatever. But
like
no, it doesn't sound like someone chattering their teeth. And when was the last time you got so scared you started chattering your teeth? Like...
I don't know. I didn't chatter my teeth this time.
I know.
My hand went numb at one point.
Yeah, so I think that was a little weird. Like, I wouldn't mind if he started getting maybe, like, tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Or something, where, like, he's gonna pass out because he's so crazy and scared.
Well, he did kind of, like, faint almost. Like, at the end of the game, sanity was really low, and then you kind of walked in where the jam was, and you just collapsed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Because that's the final stage of insanity.
Yeah.
And then you start losing health and stuff like that.
It'd be interesting if he started to get, like, a ringing in his ears or something. I could see that.
Well, he gets, like, the ringing in his ears when he goes into the morgue and the torture
Yeah,
rooms.
I thought that was
stuff like
cool.
that was good, yeah. It was like, mind-numbing. It was like, oh, my ears.
I thought that was really good. So I wish that sound were different, because it made me sort of chuckle.
Yeah.
So these are my suggestions for the insanity mechanic.
Yeah.
Overall, it was functional.
I liked it. Like, I don't know, I think it might not be a game I'd replay, just because, like, I know all the triggers and stuff like that now. It wouldn't have the same scare feeling and stuff like that. I'm glad I did play it, especially since, like, you know, it was a big hyped game and stuff like that. Especially everybody, oh my god, this is the scariest game ever.
Yeah.
And I get scared pretty easy. Like, horror scares me pretty easy, so.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I'm a wuss.
Like I said, I think the scaredest I was in that game was when I opened the door on that guy, and he was right there. I was just terrified.
Yeah, we weren't expecting that. I don't even think did he make a noise, or was he making noise and you opened the door to try to...
I didn't hear anything before, and I think I've watched it quite a few times. I'm like, oh, look, a tinderbox, and then I'm just on my merry way. I whip open the door, and he's right there. I'm like, ah! Yeah. And I just book it whichever direction is first for me. I just turn and run. I didn't even know which way I ran.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that... was that scripted or not? I get the feeling it wasn't.
I have no idea. You know
what?
I think that guy was in there, because I think I saw this one freakout video on YouTube. That was one of the scenes I saw where he opened the door and the guy was there and he hid in a corner instead of ran away.
Yeah.
And then he turned around, the guy was right there, but it didn't kill him.
Oh, cool.
And he was just, like, whimpering in a corner, and I'm just like, oh my god.
Well, if so, like, I think that was a jump scare they really earned. I think they could have gotten away with a couple more jump scares. I think that they built it up enough that...
I was worried that was going to happen again, but I'm like, no, they wouldn't do that again, would they?
Well, something else, like a door slam or a scream or something like that. I think they could have done a couple more.
Yeah.
Because they built it up so well that I would have been like, you got me. I would have been like, that wasn't scary. Come on, that's not scary.
Well, I was so scared to play after that part because I thought there would be more like that later. Like, I don't think I'd ever, during the entire game, I don't think I was ever that freaked out again.
Yep.
But that one instance was enough to kind of, like, put this unsettling feeling in me for the rest of the game. So it was just bad because it was compounding, too. Because I open the door, the guy's there, I freak out, run away, and he's still kind of in search mode.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know if it was ever out of it or not, but I walked through and then the torch ignited and then there was a scream and I screamed and I was even more scared. And then I go in and get the rods, turn around, and he's there again! I'm like, oh my god! And I'm just like, I'm done. I can't play anymore. I'm just... I'm done. Yeah. If I were Daniel right now, I'd just give up and let it kill me. Like, I can't continue.
So, I think the scariness was good. It was... They did different kinds, I found.
Yeah.
Like, at the start, I think we commented on this somewhere in, like, part 4 or something, where it was, like... It went through different kinds of scary. Like, at the start it was, like, spooky, and then it started to get tense, and then the monsters started showing up, and it was like scary. Like when you're down in like the wine cellar or
Yeah.
whatever, it's pretty scary. Like it goes from spooky to scary. And then by the time you get to the labyrinthy kitchen storage area,
Yeah.
they start doing more monsters. And we were commenting how like you're kind of expecting it, but I was thinking at the same time that makes it less scary but more stressful.
Yeah.
I think that was an interesting thing.
Like
and
a
then
constant stress, yeah.
Yeah, and then you go up to like the tortury animal room, and that was like
The skulls.
yeah,
I still love that. You open it, he's like, yeah, this book said, whoa!
Especially because I was in the middle of bitching,
Yeah.
and it totally like deflated my bitching with terror. That was really funny. I suppose that counts as a jump scare, and they definitely got me on that one because all the other ones that had books, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, but then like you went up to the study and there was like the evil dog, whatever, and that was scary in a horrifying kind of way. And then you went down to the morgue and there was a bit more of that. So I think that it was.
Yeah, and you had all the ambient sounds that suited each room and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Except I noticed there was that dog sound in the wine cellar. Like, I didn't recognize it as a dog sound
Yeah,
until
when I watched
associated it with the
Yeah, when I watched
study,
it again, and I think that was cool. It was a bit of foreshadowing because at the start you're like, "Is that a dog?"
Yeah.
And then as you get closer, I want to talk about the dogs
Okay.
separately in a second. But
Okay.
what do you think about like? Did you find they were sort of different types of horror? How did you?
Oh yeah, definitely. For sure. Like it's funny too because at the beginning you're spooky, you don't know what's going on. And there's like all these things being thrown at you, and then later on you kind of like realize all the horrible stuff that's been happening in this place. And every room has like a different horror in it. It's like, oh, this room was used for this, and this room was used for this. And then you go to the cistern and end up drowning some poor sap in there. Or was he hallucinating that? Was he like actually in there? Like it was so hard to tell what was real and what was not, and I think that was one of the points of the game is just you're supposed to be confused and hallucinating and scared. And they nailed that pretty well.
Yeah, I think that was really, they sort of shook it up, and even we were saying that you were saying down in the kitchen area that you were getting kind of used to there being monsters, and I said like but that's a different kind of horror.
Yeah, you're like I know there's a monster around the corner. Crap, there he is, and then
or sometimes like you're going around, you're like I'm sure he's there, but then he doesn't show up for a while,
and you're anticipating, and then you kind of like get lulled into
exactly.
a full sense of security, and he's like,
and then he shows up, and it's more of like a shit kind of reaction, which we were stressed out.
I still think we got some of our funniest freakouts from that dungeon where the monsters were just all over the place.
Yeah, those are some funny ones. But
there was a lot down there too. Like if you actually, like I was watching another video where the guy actively pursued one of the monsters. I don't know why, but they were following him, and all of a sudden there was like 3 in the corner. I'm like, holy crap! No wonder we found them so often down there.
But I thought it was good.
It's crazy.
Alright, I guess we'll do the dogs. I had a lot to say about the dogs, which I was bitching about in the thing. Like
I don't even like remember most about those. Like I knew about the dogs, and then he was like messing around with them. He's like, let's see, torture the dogs and stuff like that. And
he was trying to extract whatever the fuck it was, but people were harder to get, so he was doing animals, and they're like, they definitely produce some and stuff like that, which, again, I think it would have been better if he was just a crazy, mad scientist type dude who thought this and was completely, like, just insane. Like, as if someone walked up to you and said this, like, that kind of insane. But he convinced Daniel, who was so scared and therefore vulnerable, to join in on this, and then if Daniel realized what he'd done, and that this guy was just completely insane, and it sort of kept on that track instead of, oh, he's totally right, this is totally a thing, but it's still bad, and Daniel's morally confused, like... Anyway. Dogs. So yeah, when I watched it again, I thought it was really cool that you could hear some of the dogs down in the wine cellar. Yeah. Because it was like, I was like, what the fuck? And there was other stuff going on, so it was cool that I didn't really focus on it.
Yeah, they ended up tying a lot of the pieces of the game in different places that you wouldn't notice unless... That would actually be the one value of a replay, is just seeing how everything ties together, maybe getting more of the story so it's not as confusing.
I think there was, like, you know, the girl and her mother, I think that might have been, like, you know, there was, like, some screaming and sobbing up in that area by the spider hole. Yeah. And,
well, the storage area is where he is supposed to have, like, killed the girl. Like, where that torch ignites, that's where he killed her, basically. The girl, like, he was pursuing her because she was trying to escape. He's like, I can't let her escape because then she'll get out and she'll tell him what we're doing at this castle.
I'm telling Gabriel!
Yeah, or whatever.
I doubt that.
I highly doubt that.
And then I doubt that very much.
Yeah, and then he goes after her and stuff like that.
I like that clip, by the way, like, just a short interjection, like, where he's like, I doubt that very much. It was a really cool It was the only time he'd sounded really, like, evil.
Yeah.
Where it just kind of was a little thing, and then it was back to normal. And I'm like, it was a cool...
transition, yeah. Or like,
just a moment of the sort of darkness that's taking over him, depths of the human soul, etc. But
yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Well, after that, that's like when he realized, you know, that he's like turned into a monster or whatever. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you could even like hear the screams and stuff like that. So it was kind of cool how you had the echoes of stuff that happened in different places. But I wonder why you heard the dogs in the wine cellar.
I think probably because he's taken this amnesia potion, which obviously doesn't work very well because he remembers something every 5 seconds. Like, it's a bit much.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I was gonna comment on. Cause it was funny because even the prisoners themselves, they had like this idea that they knew what was going on. They're like, something horrible happened to me, but I can't quite put my mind on it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking that's what happened to Daniel too. He knew like all this stuff kind of happened to him, but like the memories he wouldn't have remembered unless he had been to the places, and then the memories were kind of triggered by like, you know, visual or sound or whatever,
that's what
right?
was going on. It was just a bit like I know they have to reveal stuff about him and everything like that, but I think it was a bit too often. Like, it really snapped me out of the game
those
a lot
memory
of times.
sequences, sometimes they really interfered. Like, when I was trying to run away from that monster and I run up and there's this memory sequence, I'm like, shit! And I think it was just because it was the wrong place to run at that time, because that's one of the bigger memory sequence where he kills the girl and stuff.
Oh.
But I'm like, go away, memory! I'm trying to survive!
Yeah.
And it, like, warps everything, so everything kind of goes, like, different colored. You can't see where you're going.
Yeah. But, like, do you think it was a bit too often? Like, I really found that I started to be like, ugh! Like,
I'm trying to, like, remember how many times, like, the actual, like, I didn't mind the little interjections every now and then, like, the little sentences he heard, or, like, little bits of dialogue, but, like, I think maybe if they made those, like, flashing memory sequences a little less, that might have helped a bit.
Yeah, I don't mind so much, like, if you can continue playing the game while it does it, but I still think it was just a fraction too often for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if they could have made them, like, longer, like, put a couple of them together, but it seemed like he just couldn't go anywhere or touch anything without it triggering a memory, and it just kind of interfered with the game for me. But obviously that amnesia potion doesn't work very well. But what I was going to say about, like, why you hear them in different places, I think that's just... he has these memories that get sort of accessed or triggered or whatever when he touches certain things, but he's also, you know, because it's all in there, it just takes a bit of prompting for him to get it out, so I think those would just be kind of like bits of other memories coming through.
Yeah.
If they are from memories, it could be that the thing's just fucking with him and making him hear this stuff, but I really think it's just his psyche being kind of fucked up from, you know, this horrible realization that he's the monster, and plus this potion, plus the insanity. I think that's probably what it is. But the dogs, okay. And the sound effects in general. The first major thing, like the major thing I want to say is that I don't think there should have been music for a large part of the game.
I was trying to remember, like, most of the tracks. There was only a few music tracks. Like, there was one where the monster's chasing you, and that's the music, right?
Yeah.
And then there was, like, little tunes that played after you'd solved the puzzle or something.
Yeah, that was fine. But I mean, like, as you're just walking around, I don't know if music is the right word, but it was just... No, there was
ambient
music
noise. There was, like, more ambient noise than music.
There was music, though.
Because I can't really think of, like, any specific tracks other than that.
No, it wasn't like a tune, but as you... Like, if you watch it, when you walk around, there's just a little bit of music in the background that's not really memorable, but I did notice it. And... Or if you want to call it ambient noise, there was just too much. Like, it should have been... Like, there's sometimes when you're walking around, and it would be really creepy, except you've got this kind of vague music in the background, and I really think that it should have been, like, just your footsteps, and the wind, and the screams, and the weird noises, and the bleh from the monster.
I did like some of the ambient noise, though, like, the environmental noise and stuff.
No, not... Like, the environmental noise should have been there.
Yeah.
But if you watch again, you'll notice, like, just... tiny little, not very invasive music.
I'd have to look at it again, maybe just to, like, get that, because I guess that wasn't really my focus of it. I wasn't really paying attention to the music. I was paying attention to all the other stimuli.
Well, it was because the only thing I could keep thinking was that it would be much better without the music. Because it would just be your footsteps echoing in this hollow, empty, freaky thing, and then you hear the wind, or, like, creaking, or footsteps. Like, it would have been much creepier without the music. Like, the lantern noises and the chick-chick of the matches and stuff, all, like, the sound effects were really good. I found. I really like them. But just this really quiet music in the background made me not feel as lonely and isolated and afraid and vulnerable as I could have if they didn't have the music. And it really...
I just said didn't bother me as much, I guess. I guess it's just because I didn't notice it, but, like, I can see where you're coming from, for sure.
Go back and watch that, and we were just watching the trailer for Machine for Pigs. You remember how it was completely silent?
Where the guy was like, running around.
Yeah, and all you could hear was him, like... like, go back, like, after we finish this, go and watch one, and then we'll watch the trailer for Machine for Pigs again, and I think you will see what I mean.
Oh, probably,
That it just feels so much more empty and vulnerable, whereas the music is kind of like a companion. It's a little bit, it's a bit meta.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I guess like, so. It's a fair enough point, for sure, and I definitely can see where you're coming from and stuff like that, and I probably would notice it now that you've pointed it out, but yeah.
Anyway, we'll, watch a clip and then let the viewer decide. Or maybe you can, when you do this video, after you watch it, maybe, you know, you put notes in the video. Maybe you can add a couple of thoughts in there or something.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
When you're doing the editing or whatever.
Okay,
with the dogs.
Let's get back to the dogs.
Sorry, I just wanted to address that in general. I have way more to say than I thought I would. I've got like 6 things written down, but I end up talking like a lot. Although this is the last thing I have. Second last thing I have. The fucking dogs. Okay. You hear them barking a lot. And I mentioned this in the video. Like, the whole time you're up there, it's just dogs barking and barking and barking. And I sort of got used to it. And it should be that it's kind of... You're like, what is that sound? And as you get closer, you should hear it more, or they should get more intense, or more towards where they sound like they're in pain. And it should build up until you open that door, and then it should go completely silent.
Yeah.
That would have hit me so much harder. You're like, and it's like, and then you walk in, you see like the stuffed dog and the dog head on the table, and you're like, holy shit. A, there weren't really dogs. B, the dogs are being tortured.
Yeah.
Like, it just...
They might have been able to put like triggers and stuff like that a lot easier. I don't know. Like, again, like they might have had like some issues in the production and stuff like that. They might have not put as much attention to detail. The fact that the ambient noise was there was a good thing, but sometimes, like you said, with the dogs and stuff like that, it was a little too much. Like, it was a constant background noise. Or like in the dungeon, or even like when I was in the machine room playing with the levers and stuff like that, the same little like track of ambient noise would just play over and over and over again, and the first few times it would like kind of freak me out, but then I'm like, it's just the same track playing over and over again. Like, it would be better if like some of the noises were like triggered, like every now and then, like those dogs and stuff like that, they'd like put little triggers inside like different locations where you pass them, or like the ambient noise they could have there is just like, you know, the general like machine noises or like water running or something like that. Those are the ones that could be constant, but like stuff like the dogs barking or like screams or like ooh sounds, like, you know, like those need to be more triggered.
Kind of like the piano. Although, actually, I don't know if that was scripted.
Piano was only triggered a couple of times. I remember listening to it, and it was only triggered like twice. And I'm pretty sure it was scripted, because, like, you leave the room. I found that very creepy, too, because, like, we go into the one room, we hear this crashing noise, we're like, oh, okay. And then we go into the other room, and then we start hearing the piano. Or was it the same room that we had the piano and the crashing noise? Anyways, you hear the piano, and then you go back into the room, and the piano chair and, like, the little top that covers the keys was reset, and then the corridor was collapsed. I'm like, holy shit. I don't know if this is supposed to be spooky or if it's just a mechanic of the game.
For that, I don't think the piano should have changed. I think it should have stayed exactly the same way, because the sort of indication there is that someone was actually playing the piano, which is a little silly. Yeah. And I think that you should have heard the piano before you saw it. Yeah. Instead of seeing it and then hearing it, because as soon as I saw that piano,
that might be like,
I knew we were gonna hear that fucking thing playing at some point.
Maybe that's like a point of the game, though. Like, Daniel sees something, and then his insanity produces the sound for it. Yeah. Like, he's like, oh, there's a piano. I'm kind of freaked out, you know, maybe I'll hear it later. And then he goes into another room and he hears it, and he's like, oh my god, there's something there, you know, like, it's just maybe part of his psyche.
I really think you should have heard it first. That's kind of personal preference.
Well, I mean, like, if you're going more of like the supernatural spooky, you would hear it first. But if you're going where it's like mostly him and his insanity,
but then you hear the dogs while you're down in the cellar. So it's kind of like his, and you hear the screams by like the spider hole in that area.
I guess the only reason I could connect the dogs with the wine cellar, aside from like the insanity type thing, would be like that's where they put all the guys that were like going out and looking for villagers, and they might have had dogs with them, like and they would take in dogs and hunted people down.
I really think that's a stretch.
But that would be the only like logical aspect of that. But
well, I think it should be illogical. Like it's just his memories are all confused, so. I see it as he knew about the dog thing, and when he drank this potion, it just completely fucked with his mind.
Yeah, I suppose if it were a more logical sound, it would be guys, screaming and groaning in pain as, like, their wine poisoned their bodies or whatever.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to hear that in the place where that happened.
Yeah.
Like, because he was, like, I think it was by the creepy terror fountain, which was awesome. I love that terrifying fountain.
I don't want to touch the body.
It had pupils. That was the most disturbing thing about it. It had pupils. For some reason, that just made it so much worse. But yeah, that thing was awesome. But I think when you splashed the water, you heard him talking to the dude about parasols in the desert.
Yeah, well, I remember you coming down the stairs and they're just like, oh yeah, the parasols in the desert.
Exactly, and that was creepy, even though they were like, ho 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 ho, because it had no place there. So,
yeah, it was weird.
If there's guys groaning in the place that they would be groaning in pain because they're dying, I think that would have been too on the nose. Like, it's supposed to be disconcerting.
The funniest parts is, like, where, we go up into kind of, like, where Daniel's room was and stuff like that, and he was sleeping, and we get this little sequence of, like, Alexander watching him while he sleeps.
Oh, hi, Daniel.
Oh, hi, Daniel.
Are you sleeping?
How's your sex life? That was just, wow. Like, that was kind of funny and creepy at the same time, but it was more funny because I'm just like,
it was pretty funny, but it also was a little bit creepy because, like, why the fuck, how does he know that he's having bad dreams?
And why is he watching me while I sleep?
Exactly. So that was both. It was funny, but it was also like, there's something wrong about that.
That whole area was just brain damaging. It's like,
I enjoyed it because it was kind of like a little reprieve.
Yeah.
But it was also creepy.
Yeah, like that one room, you're just like, this is nice. Something horrible's gonna happen.
Exactly. It was like a false sense of security, which I enjoyed. So
like that one room, like the study or whatever. You go into the back, we have to hide in the closet from the monster that comes in. I liked that part too because it was a little bit different. It's like there's no escape, you can't run away, you have to hide.
But it was in like the rooms were lit. I think it was fairly bright in there, like compared to some of the other places. So it was cool that it was sort of. Yeah. It wasn't in the dark and scary corner, so that kind of meant, like, it will come for you whenever the fuck it feels like.
Well, it was kind of nice of it to give us a hint, too. It's like, find a place to hide, and we're like, shit!
Yeah, it's like, you're fucked, hide.
I'm like, how would we have known that otherwise? I guess we would have heard the sound, but, like, I'm like, I wonder if that was just giving it to us a little bit too easily. I don't know.
I think,
I kind of, on one hand, I think it was fair, and on the other hand, I'm like, are they helping us too much?
Well, it was still, like, that was sort of the tutorial bit, like,
that's
fair. Whenever something contextual, like, when the first time was that you could play with stuff, which is probably, like, right at the start, it told you that you could do
items,
Yeah, and it told you about, like, how to light torches and stuff, so I think this was just setting up what you need to do around the monsters, so... Yeah.
Which is, like, the one other thing I wanted to talk about was the puzzles. Like, I want to know your opinion on, like, that they weren't really overly difficult puzzles. Like, some of them were kind of annoying and, like, had very specific ways to solve them. Yeah. But I was, like, going into this with the, I guess mindset of, like, the action-adventure where you're like...
I need to take this book and put it between
or whatever. Like, I was in, like, the Myst series, like, idea of, like, hard puzzles. And I'm just like, okay, these puzzles are gonna be really stupid, and there's gonna be things chasing us, so this is gonna be really horrible. But then the puzzles ended up being, like... I guess some of them were, like, a little more annoying, but they were simple enough so that you could, like, kind of multitask your terror and your puzzle solving at the same time.
I think if they were harder, it would have taken you... Like, they could have... Okay. They could have been a scooch harder.
Yeah.
But, Like the one where you had to like make the things between the two rooms the same.
Yeah.
That was a little more challenging.
Yeah, like that's the kind of thing where there could have been like multiple different like types of solutions. Like the one you mentioned, I was just love. I'm like, oh, I see what you have to do, and I was on a completely different mind track to you. Like you had the right answer, and I thought you had to like counterbalance them. So like,
no, I see, but that would have been like that could have been it. So that was why it was a little like,
so I didn't understand that they had to be. I kind of understood they had to be equal, but not in the way that you were saying, like, make them, like, the same height rather than, like, try to
I got that, so... but I think if they were all like that, it would have taken you out of the game a little more. I could really go either way. Like, I could say they were mostly fine. I wouldn't mind it if they were a little harder, but I don't think they should be, like, missed hard.
No, that would be...
Because
Because in Miss, seriously, unless you know exactly what you're doing or had the right clues, you just kind of stare at things for a long time, like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
And by the time, but you know, for like the first 10 minutes you're staring at it, the monster's probably gonna come up and like shank you.
And then that's just annoying.
Yeah.
And that takes away a lot of the fear. So I think that they...
You know, it was probably a fairly good balance with the puzzle thing, but I went into it with a totally different mindset.
Yeah. Well,
I kind of got used to it after a while. I just love how like most of the solutions was throw a rock at it.
Yeah, except for the one time.
For the one time.
Yeah.
You still had to smash it just with the ladder.
Yeah, well. And then the other time I'm like, the rock is not the answer. And then you did, and I was like, I'm the one who's supposed to be like, smash
Let's throw a rock at the chain. It's not gonna work. I'm like, oh, I didn't think it would work either, but I was gonna try it anyways.
I was embarrassed.
That was like 5 or 6 times in the game where throw a rock at it was the answer. Or throw something at it.
Yep.
I threw a bust one time, that was fun.
That was fun, yeah. I dropped a chair on a display case.
Oh yeah, you did.
That was fun. I think I did that several times. I think
there was like a box in one of them. You're like,
I'm like,
drop something, and I'm like, there's a box. You're like, that's not gonna work. Smash. I guess it will.
Yeah, I did both, and I think I also did one by accident. But anyway,
it made quite the crashing noise too.
It was good. If you hadn't been in that mindset, how would you have found the puzzles?
I don't know. They probably would have been like, you know, fine. Like I probably would have thought they suited the game, but I was expecting something way harder.
Yeah.
Just because I knew it was like a puzzle horror kind of like survival type thing.
It's not a puzzle horror though. It's a survival horror.
I know it's a survival horror.
It's an action survival.
Like people
horror.
like mention puzzles, and that's what I think. It's like really hard puzzles. I guess that's what I'm getting. Like I knew it was survival horror, but they say there's like puzzles in the game. I'm like, oh shoot.
Technically, there were a couple. Thing, so. You know, like the one you had to turn on the
machine.
You had to put the coal and
the machine. Yeah. Like that whole machine section there, like the 2 machines.
Yeah.
Those were the hardest puzzles, I'd say. In the game.
like that there were multi-step things where it's like you get like the. Well, I guess the chemicals don't count because all you had to do was find them, but like. I like that you have to do a couple different things to fix, like, the machine.
Yeah, and sometimes if you forget things, you get a backtrack, which sometimes has consequences.
So, I think we both say the puzzles are pretty...
Okay. I think they were satisfactory for the game.
Yeah. Oh, and the only other thing I had to say was that you really... Like, I get why you'd go insane if you look at the monster, but I think that that's still sort of the wrong... direction. Like I think you should be able to look at the monster, because for me it would be scarier to be huddled in a corner watching my death approach and having nothing I could do about it. But I understand that what you see will never be as scary as what you don't see. Yeah. So it's kind of like I wish it could be one way, but practically it couldn't.
Yeah, well, like, the idea was that, like, he's staring at the monster is supposed to freak him out. He's like, oh my god, there's a scary monster there, and stuff like that. And, like, he gets more panicked, and that's why the monster can kind of, like, spot you and see you. But... So, it's basically, like, I don't like that, but I understand why it's that way, and I don't even necessarily think it would be better if it were my way. It's just kind of wishful thinking. I think that's pretty much... I've gotten out all my bitching. Yeah. Given sort of what I guess, like, the last few minutes here, like, we could talk about Machine for Pigs. Oh, yeah. What you think about it. And what you're looking forward to, what you want to see change. I'm a little, like, what is, like, the swine will rise? Like, what is that? If nothing else, I think the parts of the trailer that have, like, this little piggy and, you know... those are pretty silly. Anything that mentions the pigs in the trailer is a little silly. Yeah. But
I like that where it's like that depends on what you consider pigs or whatever. I'm like, oh shit, like I understand. I think
you're getting
the
implications behind it. Yeah.
So I think it's really just the trailer that's a little. Parts of it look really good, and again, I think when you compare the music bits in Amnesia with the silent bits in Machine for Pigs, I think you'll see what I mean. We'll look at it.
No, I did I actually remember that part where he's like pushing through the plastic and kind of like walking around there, and it's all silent. You just get the sound effects of the stuff around you, and then like that thing comes. And...
But when he was like hiding around that corner, and you could hear it kind of squealing or whatever, which is creepy, all you could hear was him like whimpering and like heavy breathing and his footsteps, and I'm like, that is awesome because it's exactly how I'm feeling. When you put the music there, it's something between the immersive experience of the game and the horror that the game is creating, and it's between you and your avatar. Whereas Daniel is supposed to be your avatar because it's in first person, you're learning things as he's learning things. I really like the first person experience. Like it's not like first person quote unquote shooter, but like this is really like
you can kind of put yourself into that like
exactly. He's as scared as you are. He's as confused as you are. I love that. I think it would have been completely ruined by a third person perspective, like completely.
Well, that's what they do for Dead Space, actually. Like, you play the third-person Isaac and stuff like that. It is a shooter, and I know it's, like, completely different, but, like, it has that kind of, like, you know, scary horror element to it and stuff like that. And, like, the one aspect of the third person that, like, only worked for it is, like, it was harder to handle the weapons, which made it a lot scarier, so you couldn't really shoot what was coming at you, and they did that intentionally. But, like, I think I like the first person a lot better just because you feel like you're there rather than like watching this guy run around and shoot poorly at them.
There are different kinds of games with different ambitions, different styles of horror. One's kind of like an icky monster, creepy-ish horror, and the other one is like capital H horror, what I would say is the proper.
It's more psychological, kind of and those ones are the ones that are the scariest. Like Silent Hill 2, or like... Even in Silent Hill 2, you're not first person, but it still has that psychological aspect to it.
I've heard that's very psychologically scary. Yeah. Like... And you are supposed to, like, all the stuff is created by his psyche and whatever, right?
Yeah, so it's like a classic, good example of, like, a horror game.
Yeah, it's brought up really often by, like, Yahtzee and whatever. So, third person definitely ruled out for this for one, that. But the thing is that...
We've already seen footage of it saying that it's, like, first person, which is good. So.
Yeah. So, like, you see what I mean by the music being... It's something that goes in between you and Daniel. And I think that's really why the music...
Yeah, it's less immersive.
Wrecks it for me.
It's less immersive,
It's the rest of the stuff, the sounds you hear, the fact that it's in, like, surround sound, stuff like that is very, like, this is you.
Yeah.
You are here, and having the music is very you are playing a game.
Yeah, I wonder if they'd, like... You know how you hear that track when the monster's approaching and it gets louder and more crazy whenever
They should keep that.
I don't, like, I was wondering if they could have that music track, or maybe if they could have, like, the sound more interactive, like, of the monster, like, you hear it getting closer, or, like, you know, there's specific sounds it makes when it is close, rather than, like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like, if there was another way to handle it, if they're gonna just, like, go back to the music for that one again. Because, like, that is one track that I did appreciate, because you knew when he was gone.
Yeah, I think that it built up in the track. I think if he were making sounds, it would diminish the impact of his sounds.
Yeah.
Like, when you got near and he went, blah, which is his way of saying hello.
Yes.
That was creepy, right? That was like, oh shit, if he'd done that consistently as he got closer, it would have ridden. So I definitely would keep that music.
Okay.
Especially because I think that the track it reminded me of, like, my heart beating.
Yeah, it wasn't actually, like, a music track, it was more, like, just sound, and it made you unsettled. That's what I liked about that one. It was, like, an unsettling kind of
I would definitely call it music.
Yeah, it was definitely music,
had, like, a heartbeat sort of feel to it, where it was, like...
It was disjointed. It didn't have, like, a specific...
It wasn't a tune.
Yeah, it wasn't a tune. It had, like, rhythm, and it definitely was music, but it wasn't, like, a tune.
Yeah, and I think that would have enhanced the experience of that music and the horror of it, because if you hadn't been hearing music the whole time, so you know if you hear that track, because you already know you hear that track and shit's going down. If it had been silent up to that, I think that would have made it even scary.
Yeah.
I'm gonna harp on this point till the day I die. Amnesia should not have had music. Except for that, and maybe the twinkly acoustic whatever.
Oh, no, you're gonna say the sparkles at the end.
No.
I don't want the sparkles!
No, the
twinkly.
in the I can't remember what the room was called. The one with the terror fountain. You know how it had like,
it was like
sort of
it was almost like a foyer
common,
area,
you know, sort of thing. And I was like, I don't believe that for a second.
It was like
They could
main
have kept
entrance hall, something like that. It was like
something,
a hall of some
yeah.
sort.
I think they could have kept that because it's such a. I think you come straight out of the water monster area and into that.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like, I don't buy this shit at all.
Yeah, you're just like terror, nice.
Yeah, I think
creepy fucking.
they could have kept that, but also although the baby terror fountain would have been much scarier without that music. So you know what? Scratch it. The only music I want in that is
actually, I think I'm remembering that track now that you mention it. Could like kind of come out there and
where it's like it's like a twinkly
I think I
acoustic
remember
harpy.
that, yeah.
You know,
harpies.
I've changed my mind. I want to nix that music just to enhance the. I think the juxtaposition would be good either way. Or sorry, without the music.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't.
Oh,
No, I just thought you were gonna say something.
I was kind of going into that, like, because going back to Machine for Pigs and stuff like that. Like, it looks like it's gonna be interesting because it looks like it's gonna be more of a city environment,
Yeah.
and I'm really curious how they're going to like put this story together and what sort of amnesia is going to
I
be
like the factory
into it.
setting.
Yeah.
Like the sort of in the pipes and sort of construction-y side. I think that's gonna work out well. I have high hopes for that game. I really hope.
The only part I'd be worried about is like it's more open, like there's more buildings, you can go outside. Like the one aspect I really liked about this game too is that like you were going deeper and deeper in the castle.
Yeah.
You know there's absolutely no escape, there's no other way out.
Yeah.
You just keep going and going and going. And in a way it's more linear that way, but at the same time
the city setting might be a little more contrived for why you can only go a certain way.
Yeah.
But we'll see. They could handle that. You know, we'll see. I had one other point there. What do you think of the sort of cistern area? I wasn't huge on that area.
Oh, like the water where we had to like change the levers and stuff like that, or just that like whole that beginning part where like the pipe was where you had to break and I didn't mind that and stuff like that. It had the morgue attached to it, which was one of the creepier rooms.
Yeah.
And then the bridge thing was quite funny because I was just like, let's go down and swing and across it, and I couldn't figure out how to get the lever to work properly. So that part was a little bit tedious just because.
Yeah.
But
I think it sort of dragged there a little bit and then went into
I was
like,
being sort of dumb there, so that's partially my fault.
No, just in like the whole experience, I think it dragged just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, theoretically, once you know how like everything works in there, you can get through it quite fast.
Yeah, but that's not really the point. Like,
yeah.
The whole area where like, in the area where the guy was in the box that he drowned.
Yeah.
That area was really dull for me.
Yeah.
Maybe because the water monster wasn't there. If it had been there.
Yeah, I kept expecting the water monster to pop up, and I thought he landed in the water, like he fell out of a vent or something. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, if it had it.
Yeah.
That might have. I just didn't like that area.
Yeah, what was that water monster, anyways? Like like.
A thing?
It seemed to be like a established thing because you use it later on to get like the saliva or whatever for that concoction. So obviously it was a creature that like lived there, but.
Well, in the same way that the walkie monsters were. So whatever they were, the water monster was.
Yeah, but, like, I was kind of curious how the water monster worked, too, because, like, was he in the water? Was he invisible? Like,
I really think it was in the water.
I couldn't figure that out, because it looked like he was doing steps. It
no,
looked like
he was
steps,
just
that's all it was. And I know it was probably splashing, but it looked like...
I think it's just a thing in the water, because if it were above the water, like if it were walking or something,
you'd
it would
run
be able
into
to...
it and it would slice you. But...
Yeah, it'd be able to smack you off your boxes. So, I think it was in the water. I don't think it's really important what exactly it was.
No, it's not, but...
So...
That was interesting too, because like they had like basically four I guess, four types of monsters. They had like the Machete Man, they had the Floppy Jaws, they had the Jam, quote unquote monster because it hurt you, and then it had the Water Monster. So there was like four kind of like
environmental hazard.
Well, there was like four elements basically that could hurt you or slice you up or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it was kind of good that they didn't have too many different types of monsters and stuff. But at the same time, I kind of wanted to see the water monster return. Like, we only see him for that one little part, and then he's just gone.
I think they should have at least put the water monster in that area.
Yeah, I think he would have fit well there.
So that's what I'm saying. That part of the game dragged a little bit for me.
Well, maybe they were intending it, but maybe they're like, well, they're going to spend a lot of time down here anyways, and we don't want it to be, like, ridiculous or something like that. Or that, or they could have put more hazards down there. Like, they had the steam down there and stuff like that. That was one of the aspects. Or more platforming.
Well, it was a little bit of platforming. I think if they'd made it a little more platformy down there and added the water monster, it would have been at least
made it way more stressful. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas this, it was just a little tedious. You were just kind of running around, pulling levers or whatever it was that we were doing, turning pipes or whatever. So, yeah, it was just a little dull and a little tedious for me in that part. But
yeah, so hopefully they'll, like, fix up some of those stuff in the next game, because they've had the time and the money to do it, so...
Yeah. I hope they get rid of the music. Like, I know it's in the trailer like that, but I hope that
the trailer music, I would laugh so hard if that just started showing up in the game. I'd be like, why did you do this? Yeah. Music sort of fits the trailer, but some scenes you, like, see, like, the torture electrical devices, and you're just like, really, operatics? We're gonna do this?
Yeah, that was a little weird. But I mean, if they get rid of, like, the ambient music, like the background music.
Yeah.
Again, we gotta watch a clip so you can see what I mean, and...
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I enjoyed the game overall. It scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah. I had fun playing it despite how much it terrified me.
Yeah, no, I really
It was fun to play with someone. I don't know if I'd do it on my own just because I'm just not into doing those kind of things on my own. I'd rather play, like, a mildly kind of scary game where you can fight back, like, you know, Half-Life or Dead Space or stuff like that, just because, I don't know, I guess there's that element where you're not completely helpless, and that makes it a whole lot more terrifying. What the hell? Okay, terrifying, yes.
Yeah, that's just a matter of, like, personal preference, so I probably wouldn't play it again, but I think it was well worth the money that you paid. To play it.
Hey, like, I got it on sale, so...
I would have gotten it at some point anyway.
Yeah.
But I definitely think it was worth the money that you paid to play it once. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I had some nitpicky things, obviously.
I'm all for supporting these developers.
Yeah,
it looks like they're putting out some pretty cool stuff.
I'm really excited.
They did Penumbra too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, really excited for Machine for Pigs. Like, I'm so stoked.
That comes out this summer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Outlast, which I think looks like it might be trying to do something sort of similar.
Was that the one in the Insane Asylum?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm excited for that one. I know you're not really interested in that one, but...
Oh my god, Insane Asylums. They freak me out.
I know. I don't know if you want to do Let's
some
Play
some of the stuff looks really silly, but some of the stuff looks like it would be like really terrifying.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really tense, if nothing else. I think it... Yeah, it's going to be at least tense, which kind of reminds me of, like,
I'll play that one. I'll probably end up crying in a corner at some point, but...
It might be a good candidate for Let's Play.
Okay. I'm gonna look forward to that one then. I'm not sure when.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to both of them. I think they're both in the summer. I'd have to look, but anyway, should we wrap it?
I guess we'll call it a wrap on that. Yeah.
Enjoyed it. I hope your viewer, singular, all the multitudes of people watching enjoyed it. And I'd like to work on some compilation videos. I think they'll be really good.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely put out the top freakouts and, like, a couple of the funny stuff that happened to us.
But I probably...
Or that we said.
Yeah, I won't have time to do that for quite a while, so...
Yeah, I can work on some of that stuff, maybe get a couple videos out.
Yeah. Okay, well,
I guess we'll call it a wrap then.
Bye-bye.
Whee!